Holla holla, Claudina9 here. Today we're talking a highly anticipated conversation. On May 3rd, Yoinks Maybe went viral for this tweet showcasing a side-by-side of Monster High's original versus reboot Draculaura. So why did Monster High downgrade? Friends like these will never die. Or so they say. Monster High had a reboot which ultimately knocked the ghouls into the coffin. But do you want to know how Disney Princess Ever After High and Bratz tie into their untimely demise? Keep on watching. It's been approximately 3 years since we've had any new Monster High dolls, and the most shocking controversy among the Monster High fandom is, what the hell was that reboot? Why did Monster High, one of Mattel's most successful franchises, rebrand themselves entirely? I want to clarify, this video is not to justify the changes made to Monster High, but to explain why they were changed and provide facts. I'll get into my personal opinions later in this video. Disney princesses. It may sound random as to why they led to Monster High's reboot, but in order to understand, we need to go back to the beginning. Since the 1950s, Mattel has worked with Disney in making toys for them, and in the early 2000s, Mattel released Disney Princesses, which is considered a doll line franchise of its own, separate from Disney canon. This lineup included Cinderella, Belle, Snow White, Jasmine, Ariel, and Aurora. Of course, any 2000s baby remember these bathtub beauties. The franchise is worth $500 million, and that doesn't even include Frozen. Mattel was known for licensing with companies to make toys for them, but rarely developing their own unique ideas outside of Barbie. This changed when Monster High came out in 2010 and was such a massive success for the company. Mattel started making their own concepts and didn't prioritize licensing toys anymore. Monster High became the second best-selling fashion doll within 3 years of its release, with Barbie being number 1. In 2012, Barbie's sales began to stagger, Monster High being one of the reasons. So Mattel decided to shift focus. They stopped paying so much attention to Disney princesses to pay more attention to fixing Barbie, and continued releasing cheap gimmick hairplay dolls and Disney princess ballerinas. Disney, obviously alarmed by this, started feeling left out by Mattel, but the biggest stab to the heart was when Mattel decided to release none other than Ever After High. In 2013, Mattel launched Ever After High, a spin-off of Monster High, which was considered a rival to Disney's franchise, and with Disney Descendants being in early production around the same time, with a very similar concept, it was likely Mattel refused to make Descendants dolls, seeing as they literally compete with Ever After High. With Monster High sales being at an all-time high during the years of 2013 to early 2014, Mattel seemed unscathed and continued to release skating Elsas with molded-on glitter tops. Disney had enough, and in September of 2014 officially took Disney Princess to Hasbro. Chris Sinclair, former Mattel CEO, said in a statement with Bloomberg, "We took Disney for granted. We weren't focusing on them. Shame on us." Chris Sinclair is no longer Mattel's CEO, which is why Monster High is making a return. Did I spill too much? More on that later in this video. So how does this lead to a reboot? Well, Disney Princess was known for hitting a younger demographic, mostly kids 7 and under, whereas Monster High and Ever After High targeted an older audience, mostly tweens. So Mattel, knowing they were losing the rights to Disney Princesses, decided to make the dolls more childlike so they could appeal to younger kids and regain the Disney audience they'd be losing. Mattel also faced scrutiny from many mommy bloggers criticizing Monster High for being inappropriate and scary. My fave ghoul Claudine came under fire in 2011 for having a freaky flaw that included plucking and shaving, something many mothers didn't want advertised to their children. The dolls were also criticized for their body proportions being much thinner and slim than any other doll on the market. Mattel likely thought by making the dolls less scandalous and more childlike, parents who criticized the doll line would buy into it, but clearly that didn't work. In December of 2015, Mattel released this Sizzler video showing the new Monster High. For legal reasons, some of the video will be cut, but the commercial featured an unreleased song, likely a scrapped theme song, and prototypes for the 2016 reboot. They gave all the dolls smiles and large doe eyes, less makeup, more random patterns, less articulation meant less of a choking hazard so younger kids could buy them, and less articulation also means the cost to create is lower. This sizzler implies that Monster High was changed solely to please parents who thought the dolls too scary, but we know there's a deeper reason than that. It's safe to say that with losing Disney Princess, Mattel lost a lot of its profits and simply didn't have the funds to focus on Barbie and Monster High at the same time, and chose to cheapen the quality on both, working with the money they still had. It's kind of like if you really want a prom dress from Dior but have to settle for the AliExpress version because that's all you can afford right now. It's also said that around the year of 2014, the price it costed to produce toys increased, which is why we've seen a price rise in dolls. So it was very bad timing for Mattel to be losing $500 million profit with the cost to create rising. 2016 sales for Monster High plummeted as fans weren't receptive to the drastic change. So Mattel decided to focus more on making the different body types for Barbie and poured a lot of their funds into marketing and branding for the Barbie Fashionista line. By 2017, Mattel decided to scrap any new ideas for Monster High completely and put all their money into other things. In 2018, despite not releasing any new dolls or Monster High merchandise in over a year, Mattel claimed on Twitter that Monster High creeps on. However, Ever After High had been officially discontinued. Mattel responded to a Twitter user again in December, reassuring that Monster High was still being produced. Okay, but how does Bratz have anything to do with all of this? Now, this is just a speculated theory spread by fans, but the Bratz and Monster High reboot came about the same time. Both were very similar, big childlike eyes, minimal makeup, emoji gimmicks, fitness gimmicks, but the biggest kick was the bodies. It was strange to some fans that the 2015 Bratz had no arm articulation but had movement in their kneecaps, something Bratz didn't normally have prior. 2016's Monster High reboot did the same thing. No arm movement, but they could bend at the knees. This could be mere coincidence and a total case of cause versus correlation, but some fans theorize that MGA purposely made 2015 Bratz childish to see if Mattel would copy them. I don't know if any of this is true, and I'm not sure either brand would go through all the effort, but Mattel and MGA aren't unfamiliar with being lethal rivals. Both companies have gotten into multiple lawsuits, both accusing one another of stealing each other's ideas. What do you think? Do you think 2016 Monster High reboot was meant to copy Bratz? Let me know below. Now, my own personal thoughts. So, I remember when Monster High initially came out, and I thought they were Monster Bratz and made by the same company. And truthfully, they were kind of scary, but I was obsessed. I fell in love with the webisodes and the unique characters, the goth elements. It was just Halloween themed enough that my Christian parents didn't complain, but still spooky enough that my scene phase was living. I was obsessed with how these dolls had removable limbs, making them fully posable and animated, down to the nitty-gritty details of putting webbed hands on Laguna Blue or teeny tiny skull buttons on Ghoulia Yelps. But all of that magic faded when Mattel decided to take the freaky out of Fabulous. The dolls became visibly less edgy, visibly younger in age, and visibly much lower quality, and it didn't make any sense to disregard the fundamentals of why the original fans liked Monster High dolls in the first place. Monster High had been known for providing some of what was the best quality on the market at the time, having rings and pets, fully thought out diaries, fully posable bodies and doll stands, but then they watered it all down. Truthfully, I can't comprehend why any company would think it's a good decision to downgrade their product. It almost always fails. People don't want to play with a static doll. People want dolls that can look like they're crying, dolls that can pose like they're talking, all while flipping long colorful hair and exotic face makeup. Dolls to me have always been an escape into another world. I've been able to immerse myself into another reality simply by looking at them, observing how someone really took the time to pour life into a 10-inch sculpture, and I could tell stories being creative with them. But a story is only as good as its actor, and if the actor can't move its arms and the actor is stuck in the same clothes, the story gets dull and boring. Speaking of stories, the 2016 Monster High changed the entire story and plot. As most original fans know, Frankie Stein was the new ghoul at school, and we often followed the story of her playing protagonist. But in the reboot, Draculaura and her father, Dracula, are the founders of Monster High, and they find Frankie hiding out. The new Frankie replaces Ghoulia's smarts and make Frankie less of the main protagonist and more of the sarcastic, brainy one. Despite being a zombie like Ghoulia, Monica Decay replaces characters like Toralei and Nephra, being the main antagonist. Toralei, who was known for causing chaos and being spiteful, was turned into more of a klutzy prankster. It was hard for me to watch the series because they changed the entire plot of what I'd known and made all their personalities more childish. Changing the voice actor of Frankenstein really bothered me as well.
You're the only one who knows their way around this place. I need to know the real story about this awful day.
My pops is Frankenstein. After the Great Monster Fright Flight, he went into hiding like all other monsters.
And it just felt like an entirely different franchise. I think the Monster High reboot kind of followed suit of the 2015 Gem movie. It lacked all the memorable elements that made the brand what it was. With that being said, I don't despise the reboot dolls as much as most people do. I think the core line was really cute, and I actually enjoy looking at the bright colors. I thought Cleo's body having mummy wraps was really cool, and Claudine having fur on her legs and arms was fitting. What got me was the lack of quality control and the clear laziness of how the dolls got produced. But there is hope. On May 1st, Debbie Derryberry, the iconic voice of Draculaura, revealed on TikTok that there will be upcoming Monster High movies. She didn't say what or when, but I think it's possible we can expect to hear Draculaura again in some type of marketing, ideally this fall. One thing I think that's worth mentioning is that designers get a lot of backlash when it comes to Monster High's reboot. But what fans don't realize is that these designers know what they're doing. They stay up to date on all things pop culture. They have Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. They know what's hot and what's not. They love these characters just as much as we do, so why would they allow for this to happen? The truth is, unfortunately, non-creatives get to make creative decisions. Old men with money who have never even touched a doll in their life get the final say. And of course, they often choose budget cuts over designers' artistic vision. Mattel's executives decided to cut corners on Monster High. Cheaper hair, cheaper face paints, outsourcing cheaper factories, using cheaper fabrics, but no designer plans for this. No one who truly cares about the characters they spent years developing and curating purposely choose to water them down. They merely have to adapt with the budgets being provided. Personally, I hope they pretend the reboot never happened, and I think they should continue developing the story arc they've been creating since 2013. A reboot that began with Ever After High and Monster High's crossover would be legendary, and I think it would spark a lot of life into the fans who have continued to support these brands years after their ending.
But who ever heard of a Monster High? Sorry.
Let me know what you think. Should Ever After High make a return as well? Should Monster High and Ever After High still make the crossover? If you enjoyed this video, click thumbs up and subscribe for more content. I'll always keep you up to date and informed on all things Monster High. Thanks for watching. See ya!